problems from our homework as a refresher of what we did last class. So we talked about talking about our graphs in terms of transformations, okay? And we did our little foldable with that. And so just a reminder, our equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. And this tells us our slope. My m is my slope, and my b value, that's my y-intercept. So we talked about how there's three things that could happen. We can have a translation, a dilation, or a reflection over the x-axis. Our translation is just another way of saying shifting up or down. And so our y-intercept tells us if we have shifted up or down. Now our dilation is simply talking about our slope. If our slope is bigger, then it's steeper. If our slope is smaller, then it's less steep. But when you have the graph, you can just simply look to see if it's more steep or less steep. Then our last thing, reflection. Reflection over the x-axis. This means that we have a negative slope. Okay. So again, we can look at our slope in our equation, or when they give us a graph, just look at the graph. So for our first one here, we see, and they went ahead and just left the dotted line, our parent function there. That's the original y equals x, just so you can have that as a comparison to help you out visually. But we can see that for my new line here, my y-intercept is still at 0. So it did not shift up or down at all. That's why we have no shifting up or down. The slope is still the same. The steepness is still the same. My slope is up 1 over 1 there. Here it's up 1 over 1, but to the left. So no change in our steepness. The only thing that happened is that it's going a negative slope, so it reflected over the x-axis. So those are the three things that they're going to ask about. When they give us an equation, we can look at our equation. When they give us a graph, just look at your graph. Now for number 2, we actually had some stuff happen. Again, here's my original graph. This is our parent function, y equals x. And then here is my new function. And we can already see that has shifted up. We can see it, the y-intercept is up higher, so it shifted up 3. It is also steeper, so it's a dilation, steeper. And it does not have a negative slope, it's still a positive slope, so there was no reflection of the x-axis. So those are the three things that we're looking for.
How do you know it went up by 3?
My y-intercept, instead of being at 0, 0, is now at 3. My original parent graph. Alright, do you have questions, Angel? So that's a good question. How do we know if the slope is negative? So if this is my original xy axis, this is an example of a positive slope. And if this is my original xy axis, negative slope goes the other direction. So positive slope, it's like you're climbing up the stairs. Negative slope, you're going down the stairs. Other questions on kind of a review of what we did last class? And then do we have questions on 1 or 2 of our homework?
When it reflects over the x-axis, is when it goes from quadrant to quadrant.
It just simply means that instead of a positive slope, I now have a negative slope. So anytime you have a negative slope, that's reflection across the x-axis.
Would it ever give us a negative, then it becomes positive?
So what they're asking with each of these is how does it change from your original graph? My original graph is y equals x, which is a positive slope. That's going to be 99% of the time what they ask. They could give you a new graph that starts off negative and then say what happened. If it goes the other way, that would be a reflection. So reflection just basically is the opposite direction, opposite slope. All right, let's go and take a look at our others here. Okay, or sorry, not our graph. Again, it's our equation. So again, translation, we're looking at our y-intercept to know if it went up or down. Dilation, we're looking at our slope. And reflection, we're looking to see if there's that negative slope. Negative slope. So again, they're asking in comparison to my original graph, y equals x. F of x is the same thing as y, so they're asking in relationship to this. So for number 5, I can see I have a y-intercept of -4. This did not have a y-intercept of 0, so that means we went down 4. We went down 4. Positive is up, negative is down. I can also see that my slope is 1/2. Okay, my slope is 1/2. Over here, what is my slope of my original parent graph? 1. It's just the number in front of x. And when there is not a number in n, that means it's a number 1. Is 1/2 bigger than 1 or less than 1? Less than 1, so that means it's less steep. If it's bigger, it's more steep. If it's less, it's less steep. And it's still positive, so there's not a negative, so it did not reflect over the x-axis. So those are the 3 things that you're looking for. Y-intercept, shifting up or down. Slope, more steep, less steep. Negative slope means we did that reflection.
Wait, so if you have a, like, if it would be -1/2, it would be reflected over
It would
it?
be a reflection as well. Because again, my original graph they asked about is a positive one. So if we went negative, that if we went negative, then it would be a reflection. The opposite. So we're going to take a look at those. So again, steepness deals with my slope, reflection deals with slope, shifting deals with y-intercept. So slope is 1/4 as steep. So my slope up here is 1. So when it says it's 1/4 as steep, then I just do 1/4 times 1, which is 1/4. That's my new slope. And then it's been shifted up 3. Well, right now, I have this. There is no y-intercept, so my y-intercept is 0. And I up 3 would be 0 plus 3, so plus 3.
So you make the equation?
Yep, for this one, I asked you to write the equation for it. And that's what we'll be doing more practice with. All right, then here, again, they give us our original graph is y equals x. So our slope here is 1. Our y-intercept is 0. All right, and they said our new function, g of x, is reflected. It is 1/3 as steep, and it is shifted up 2. So I want to add 2 to my y-intercept, and my slope, I want it to be 1/3 as steep. So I just take my original equation, y equals x. My slope is 1, so I want to do 1/3 times 1, which gives me 1/3. It's reflected, so I'm going to make it negative. And it's shifted up 2. My original y-intercept is 0. I want up 2, so plus 2. 0 plus 2 is positive 2. So again, I mean, you didn't have to write the equation. You could have gone ahead and just done it from your graph. But now my y-intercept is at 2. I should have a negative slope. They want it 1/3 as steep, so negative 1/3. So up 1 to the left. Up 1 to the left. Down 1 to the left. 3. And that's my one. On the SOL, they would probably have you graph to the points and the line would automatically appear. Questions with that?
Wait, why is there another line there?
This was the original line. So this is our original graph. So if you want to do it just from there, you could think, okay, I move this up 2 and flip it around. So you don't have to draw that. It just simply asks you to graph the new function. So you
just
only
get all the
this.
clues that it tells us, put it together, and
And then graph it. Okay, so what we're doing today, if you take a look at your stamp sheet, we do have a mini quiz, but it's at the end of class because it's just over what we did last class and today. Today is just more practice, so I figured we'll just do more practice, and then the last bit of class, we'll go and do our mini quiz, which is over that practice. So let me pull up and show you what it is that we're doing today. We're going to be getting into groups and doing a placemat activity. Let me go ahead and pull it up here. So we've done something like this in a previous unit, but you're going to be in groups of 4. Let's see if it comes up. And each group is going to get what we call a placemat, and it looks something like this. So each person will be doing their own problem. And then for this, it says rewrite each equation, add the amounts to find the sum. So like for number 1, you write your new equation. They give you your information here. And then it says you use the new slope. So you're going to add the slope from number 1. For number 2, you're going to add your new y-intercept. For 3, your new y-intercept. And 4, your slope. So you're going to add those 4 things together, and that's your sum. Once you think you have your answer, you're going to write your stuff down on your placemat here. You're going to write your information down here. And then once you have all your numbers, add them up, and then have one person come up to me. I'll check it. And then once you've gotten it right, then you can move on to the next placemat. So I'm going to divide you up into groups of 4. And again, each person will do their own problem. But if you get stuck, you're going to use your group mates to help you out. And that's our practice we're going to be doing with today. Do we have questions about how we're going about this? I want to go ahead and just as a nice reminder for you guys, let me pull up our notes from last time. I know we just went over everything, but just to help you remember everything. Thinking. Okay, so as you're working on this, just remember that when it says we shift up or down, this means it's affecting our y-intercept. Okay, so that's a translation. Translation. Okay, then next we had dilation. So that means either more steep or less steep. That comes from our slope. You want to multiply it to your new slope or your old slope. And then our last thing was reflection. And it usually just says reflection over x-axis. And what that is you want to make it into a negative slope. If your slope is already negative, you make it positive. Okay, so these are the 3 things that you'll be doing. I'm going to leave this up here just as a reminder for you as you're working on your problems to write out your equation. And then just remember our original, y equals mx plus, this is my y-intercept, and this is my slope. And this is my slope. Okay. So I'll leave that up there for you as you guys work on your placemats. I'm going to go ahead and pass out the materials, and then I'll get you into your groups. Okay, so again, I want to go ahead and take a look at just a few of these problems. So a reminder, y-intercept changing, that's our shifting up or down. Slope changing, we multiply by whatever it talks about, that's our more steep or less steep, that's dilation. And our slope becoming negative, that's our reflection. Now, if your slope is already negative, and it says to reflect, what's a negative times a negative give us? Positive, good. So it makes our slope become positive. Okay, so I just want to take a look at a few of these just before we do our mini quiz. Alright, so this is on our first placemat number 1, the green one. So they gave us our original equation. So let me write on it. Oh, I don't have it plugged in. That's perhaps helpful. Okay, now let's try. Okay, so here's my original equation. equation, let me go reorient this. For this one, for our first placement, our original equation was simply y equals x. Didn't do anything too crazy here.
Wait.
Alright. Okay. The original equation was y equals x. When it says twice as steep, that means I'm going to take my slope and multiply it by 2. So my slope is now 2 times 1, which is 2. And shifted down by 5, I take my y-intercept and go down 5. So this one wasn't too bad because our original started off as y equals x. But as you notice, as you went through the placemats, they started to get a little bit more difficult. So let's take a look at like number 4 here on our second place. Our original equation is still y equals x. And so we want to take that and find our new slope and our new y-intercept. So it says 1/3 as steep. That means I do 1/3 times my slope. 1/3 times 1 is 1/3. And it says reflected over the x-axis. That means it becomes negative now. It didn't change my y-intercept at all. We didn't shift up or down, so we leave it as that. Now, take a look at, go to like number 2 here. So it says, given y equals 3x minus 4. So now this is my starting equation. It says shifted down by 10, so that means my y-intercept, we want to do minus 10 for my y-intercept. So negative 4 minus 10 gives me negative 14. And 2/3 as steep, that means I want to take my slope and multiply it by 2/3. So 2/3 times 3, when you put that in your calculator, you get just 2. So here's my new equation here. So you're doing the same stuff, it's just you start off with a different equation, but you're still adding and subtracting from your y-intercept. So multiplying by your slope there. Most times it'll probably start off as just y equals x, but they will have some problems like this where you have to manipulate something other than y equals x. So it's the same thing that you did. You're going to, anytime shifting, you add or subtract that from your y-intercept. It's just here I actually had a y-intercept. So instead of it being from 0, add or subtract it from negative 4. And before, my slope was always 1. Well, now I have a slope that's 3. So when it says 2/3 is steep, it's not 2/3 times 1, but 2/3 times 3. So it's just with whatever we have. Okay. So go ahead and clear off your desk. You can keep out your calculator. May or may not be. Clear off your desk and we'll do our mini quiz. And again, once you're done, just make sure you pick up the homework, worksheet number 17, I think it says. And you can start working on that. Next class is our review class.